He does only what is his to do, and considers constantly what the world has in store for him, doing his best and trusting that all is for the best. For we carry our fate with us, and it carries us. To love only what happens, what was destined, no greater harmony. For there is a single harmony, just as the world forms a single body comprising all bodies. So fate forms a single purpose, comprising all purposes. To watch the courses of the stars as if you revolved with them. To keep constantly in mind how the elements alter into one another. Thoughts like this wash off the mud of life below. No one can keep you from living as your nature requires. Nothing can happen to you that is not required by nature. The others obey their own lead, follow their own impulses. Don't be distracted. Keep walking. Follow your own nature. And follow nature. Along the road, they share. Doctors keep their scalpels and other instruments handy for emergencies. Keep your philosophy ready too. Ready to understand heaven and earth. In everything you do, even the smallest thing. Remember the chain that links them. Nothing earthly succeeds by ignoring heaven. Nothing heavenly by ignoring the earth. Love the discipline you know, and let it support you. Entrust everything willingly to the gods, and then make your way through life. No one's master and no one's slave. People try to get away from it all, to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. You always wish that you could too, which is idiotic. You can get away from it at any time you like by going within. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. What injures the hive injures the bee. Whatever happens to you is for the good of the world. That would be enough right there. But if you look closely, you'll generally notice something else as well. Whatever happens to a single person is for the good of others. In short, know this: human lives are brief and trivial. Yesterday, a blob of semen. Tomorrow, embalming fluid. Ash. Indifference to external events, and a commitment to justice in your own acts, which means thought and action resulting in the common good, what you were born to do. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. Not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. Fight to be the person philosophy tried to make you. Revere the gods. Watch over human beings. Our lives are short. The only rewards of our existence here are an unstained character and unselfish acts. Mastery of reading and writing requires a master. Still more, so life. People who labor all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse toward are wasting their time, even when hard at work. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do, or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm. You don't love yourself enough. Or you love your nature too, and what it demands of you. People who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. They even forget to wash or eat. It can ruin your life only if it ruins your character. Otherwise, it cannot harm you, inside or out. Perfection of character? To live your last day, every day, without frenzy or sloth or pretense? The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. The mind in itself has no needs, except for those it creates itself. Is undisturbed except for its own disturbances. knows no obstructions except those from within. The mind without passions is a fortress. No place is more secure. Once we take refuge there, we are safe forever. Not to see this is ignorance. To see it and not seek safety means misery. That things have no hold on the soul. They stand there unmoving, outside it. Disturbance comes only from within, from our own perceptions. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Objective judgment, now, at this very moment. Unselfish action, now, at this very moment. Willing acceptance, now, at this very moment, of all external events. That's all you need. I can control my thoughts as necessary. Then how can I be troubled? What is outside my mind means nothing to it. Absorb that lesson and your feet stand firm. You can return to life. Look at things as you did before, and life returns. External things are not the problem. It's your assessment of them, which you can erase right now. Your three components, body, breath, mind, 2 are yours in trust. To the third alone, you have clear title. To move from one unselfish action to another with God in mind, only there, delight in stillness. For every action, ask, how does it affect me? Could I change my mind about it? But soon I'll be dead, and the slate's empty. So is this the only question? Is it the action of a responsible being, part of society, and subject to the same decrees as God? To stop talking about what the good man is like, and just be one. Be satisfied with even the smallest progress, and treat the outcome of it all as unimportant. You see how few things you have to do to live a satisfying and reverent life. If you can manage this, that's all even the gods can ask of you. If you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, do what's essential, what the logos of a social being requires, and in the requisite way, which brings a double satisfaction, to do less better. Because most of what we say and do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. To bear in mind constantly that all of this has happened before and will happen again. The same plot from beginning to end, the identical staging. Produce them in your mind as you know them from experience or from history. All just the same, only the people different. Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. If all the rest is common coin, then what is unique to the good man? To welcome with affection what is sent by fate. Not to stain or disturb the spirit within him with the mess of false beliefs. Instead, to preserve it faithfully by calmly obeying God, saying nothing untrue, doing nothing unjust. And if the others don't acknowledge it, this life lived with simplicity, humility, cheerfulness, he doesn't resent them for it and isn't deterred from following the road where it leads to the end of life. An end to be approached in purity, in serenity, in acceptance, in peaceful unity with what must be. Then what should we work for? Only this: proper understanding, unselfish action, truthful speech, a resolve to accept whatever happens as necessary and familiar, flowing like water from that same source in spring. So we throw out other people's recognition. What's left for us to prize? I think it's this: to do and not do what we were designed for. That's the goal of all trades, all arts, and what each of them aims at, that the thing they create should do what it was designed to do. The nurseryman who cares for the vines, the horse trainer, the dog breeder. This is what they aim at. Be satisfied if you can live the rest of your life, however short, as your nature demands. Focus on that. And don't let anything distract you. You've wandered all over and finally realized that you never found what you were after. How to live. Not in syllogisms, not in money or fame or self-indulgence. Nowhere. Then where is it to be found? In doing what human nature requires. How? Through first principles, which should govern your intentions and your actions. What principles? Those to do with good and evil. That is nothing good except what leads to fairness and self-control and courage and free will, and nothing bad except what does the opposite. To my soul, are you ever going to achieve goodness? Ever going to be simple, whole, and naked, as plain to see as the body that contains you? Know what an affectionate and loving disposition would feel like? Ever be fulfilled? Ever stop desiring, lusting, and longing for people and things to enjoy? Or for more time to enjoy them? Or for some other place or country, a more temperate clime? Or for people easier to get along with? And instead be satisfied with what you have and accept the present, all of it, and convince yourself that everything is the gift of the gods, that things are good and always will be, whatever they decide and have in store for the preservation of that perfect entity, good and just beautiful, creating all things, connecting and embracing them, and gathering in their separate fragments to create more like them. To live your brief life rightly? Isn't that enough? The raw material you're missing, the opportunities. What is any of this but training? Training for your logos, in life observed accurately, scientifically. People ask, have you ever seen the gods you worship? How can you be sure they exist? Answers. 1. Just look around you. 2. I've never seen my soul either, and yet I revere it. That's how I know the gods exist and why I revere them. From having felt their power over and over. Don't ever forget these things. The nature of the world, my nature, how I relate to the world, what proportion of it I make up, that you are part of nature, and no one can prevent you from speaking and acting in harmony with it. Always. Remember, matter, how tiny your share of it. Time, how brief and fleeting your allotment of it. Fate, how small a role you play in it. Wash yourself clean with simplicity, with humility, with indifference to everything but right and wrong. Care for other human beings. Follow God. Nature did not blend things so inextricably that you can't draw your own boundaries. Place your own well-being in your own hands. It's quite possible to be a good man without anyone realizing it. Remember that. And this too. You don't need much to live happily. And just because you've abandoned your hopes of becoming a great thinker or scientist, don't give up on attaining freedom, achieving humility, serving others, obeying God. Concentrate on what you have to do. Fix your eyes on it. Remind yourself that your task is to be a good human being. Remind yourself what nature demands of people. Then do it without hesitation, and speak the truth as you see it, but with kindness, with humility, without hypocrisy. Apply them constantly to everything that happens. Physics, ethics, logic. Stick to what's in front of you. Idea, action, utterance. Three relationships. 1. With the body you inhabit. 2. With the divine, the cause of everything and all things. And 3. With the people around you. Not to know what the world is to be ignorant of where you are. Not to know why it's here is to be ignorant of who you are and what it is. Not to know any of this is to be ignorant of why you're here. Epithets for yourself: upright, modest, straightforward, sane, cooperative, disinterested. If you maintain your claim to these epithets without caring if others apply them to you or not, you'll become a new person, living a new life. Your actions and perceptions need to aim at accomplishing practical ends, at the exercise of thought, at maintaining a confidence founded on understanding, an unobtrusive confidence hidden in plain sight. Continual awareness of all time and space, of the size and lifespan of all things around us, a grape seed in infinite space, a half twist of a corkscrew against eternity. Characteristics of the rational soul: self-perception, self-examination, and the power to make of itself whatever it wants. it reaps its own harvest. Unlike plants, and in a different way, animals, whose yield is gathered in by others, it reaches its intended goal, no matter where the limit of its life is set. To see things as they are, substance, cause, and purpose. That an individual's mind is God and of God. That nothing belongs to anyone. Children, body, life itself. All of them come from that same source. That it's all how you choose to see things. That the present is all we have to live in or to lose. We cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. When the outlook is bright, bring it before their eyes, but tell them nothing when the situation is gloomy. The worst calamities that befall an army arise from hesitation. If there is a disturbance in the camp, the general's authority hence, that general is skillful in attack, whose opponent does not know what to defend. And he who is skillful in defense, whose opponent does not know what to attack. Those skilled at making the enemy move do so by creating a situation to which he must conform. They entice him with something he is certain to take, and with lures of ostensible profit they await him in strength. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow. Decision to the releasing of a trigger. When your army has crossed the border, you should burn your boats and bridges in order to make it clear to everybody that you have no hankering after home. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to capture. 3. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. 5. Over solicitude. for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. Rewards for good service should not be deferred a single day. Begin by ceasing something which your opponent holds dear. Then he will be amenable to your will. If words of command are not clear and distinct, if orders are not thoroughly understood, then the general is to blame. But if orders are clear and the soldiers nevertheless disobey, then it is the fault of their officers. If his forces are united, separate them. Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. It is only the enlightened ruler and the wise general who will use the highest intelligence of the army for the purposes of spying, and thereby they achieve great results. If soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive. And unless submissive, then will be practically useless. If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. Convince your enemy that he will gain very little by attacking you. This will diminish his enthusiasm. To fight and conquer in all our battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night. And when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. If your opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. If sovereign and subject are in accord, put division between them. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. To know your enemy, you must become your enemy. Thus, we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win who, prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. 5. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Treat your men as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow you into the deepest valley. When the enemy is relaxed, make them toil. When full, starve them. When settled, make them move. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. To win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. Be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby, you can be the director of the opponent's fate. Thus, the expert in battle moves the enemy and is not moved by him. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. When one treats people with benevolence, justice, and righteousness, and reposes confidence in them, the army will be united in mind, and all will be happy to serve their leaders. Life, if well lived, is long enough. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Love, in its essence, is spiritual fire. Enjoy present pleasures in such a way as not to injure future ones. Man is affected not by events, but by the view he takes of them. How does it help to make troubles heavier by bemoaning them? Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Time heals what reason cannot. Let us say what we feel and feel what we say. Let speech harmonize with life. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. It is not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much. The life we receive is not short, but we make it so. Remember that pain has this most excellent quality. If prolonged, it cannot be severe. And if severe, it cannot be prolonged. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Life is like a play. It's not the length, but the excellence of the acting that matters. While we wait for life, life passes. We are always complaining that our days are few and acting as though there would be no end of them. Every night before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I acquire? True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future. Not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. Throw me to the wolves, and I will return leading the pack. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. To wish to progress is the largest part of progress. Besides, he who is feared fears also. No one has been able to arouse terror and live in peace of mind. It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness. Things that were hard to bear are sweet to remember. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. So you must match time's swiftness with your speed in using it. And you must drink quickly as though from a rapid stream that will not always flow. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. The good things of prosperity are to be wished, but the good things that belong to adversity are to be admired. Every guilty person is his own hangman. All cruelty springs from weakness. Once again, prosperous and successful crime goes by the name of virtue, Good men obey the bad. Might is right and fear oppresses law. A good judge condemns wrongful acts, but does not hate them. I am not born for one corner. The whole world is my native land. Everywhere is nowhere. When a person spends all his time in foreign travel, he ends by having many acquaintances, but no friends. Regard a friend as loyal, and you will make him loyal. One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. It is another's fault if he be ungrateful, but it is mine if I do not give. To find one thankful man, I will oblige a great many that are not so. Friendship is always helpful, but love sometimes even does harm. A person's fears are lighter when the danger is at hand. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. Worse than war is the very fear of war. Remember, however, before all else, to strip things of all that disturbs and confuses, and to see what each is at the bottom. You will then comprehend that they contain nothing fearful except the actual fear. Religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by rulers as useful. Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart. Hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You'll be able to use them better when you're older. There is nothing more despicable than an old man who has no other proof than his age to offer of his having lived long in the world. Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. He who is brave is free. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. No man was ever wise by chance. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. They lose the day in expectation of the night, and the night in fear of the dawn. You live as if you were destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head. Of how much time has already gone by you, take no heed. You squander time as if you drew from a full and abundant supply. Though all the while that day which you bestow on some person or thing is perhaps your last. It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. Each day, acquire something that will fortify you against poverty, against death, indeed against other misfortunes as well. And after you have run over many thoughts, select one to be thoroughly digested that day. Nothing deters a good man from doing what is honorable. We must go for walks out of doors so that the mind can be strengthened and invigorated by a clear sky and plenty of fresh air. At times, it will acquire fresh energy from a journey by carriage and a change of scene, or from socializing and drinking freely. Occasionally, we should even come to the point of intoxication, sinking into a drink but not being totally flooded by it, for it does wash away cares and stirs the mind to its depths and heals sorrow just as it heals certain diseases. Death is the wish of some, the relief of many, and the end of all. The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. To be always fortunate and to pass through life with a soul that has never known sorrow is to be ignorant of one half of nature. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. We are mad, not only individually, but nationally. We check manslaughter and isolated murders. But what of war and the much vaunted crime of slaughtering whole peoples? Everyone prefers belief to the exercise of judgment. The sun also shines on the wicked. The part of life we really live is small. For all the rest of existence is not life, but merely time. Drunkenness is nothing but voluntary madness. What really ruins our character is the fact that none of us looks back over his life. Fidelity purchased with money, money can destroy. Men do not care how nobly they live, but only for how long. Although it is within the reach of every man to live nobly, but within no man's power to live long. Leisure without books is death, and burial of a man alive. The abundance of books is distraction. Courage leads to heaven. Fear leads to death. Economy is too late when you are at the bottom of your purse. The final hour when we cease to exist does not itself bring death. It merely of itself completes the death process. We reach death at that moment, but we have been a long time on the way. For greed, all nature is too little. He that does good to another does good also to himself. The difficulty comes from our lack of confidence. Anger if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. There are more things to alarm us than to harm us, and we suffer more often in apprehension than reality. Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. A gift consists not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver or doer. It is difficult to bring people to goodness with lessons, but it is easy to do so by example. Often, a very old man has no other proof of his long life than his age. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. It does not matter how many books you have, but how good are the books which you have. Light griefs are loquacious, but the great are dumb. If we could be satisfied with anything, we should have been satisfied long ago. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. For many men, the acquisition of wealth does not end their troubles. It only changes them. There is no enjoying the possession of anything valuable unless one has someone to share it with. Expecting is the greatest impediment to living. In anticipation of tomorrow, it loses today. You ask, what is the proper limit to a person's wealth? First, having what is essential. And second, having what is enough. No man can be sane who searches for what will injure him in place of what is best. Everybody agrees that no one pursuit can be successfully followed by a man who is preoccupied with many things. Since the mind, when distracted, takes in nothing very deeply, but rejects everything that is, as it were, crammed into it. There is nothing the busy man is less busied with than living. There is nothing that is harder to learn. No man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity. We cease to be so angry once we cease to be so hopeful. If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. It's not because things are difficult that we dare not venture. It's because we dare not venture that they are difficult. A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. It takes the whole of life to learn how to live. And what will perhaps make you wonder more? It takes the whole of life to learn how to die. The less we deserve good fortune, the more we hope for it. To expect punishment is to suffer it, and to earn it is to expect it. I shall never be ashamed of citing a bad author if the line is good. To err is human, but to persist in the mistake is diabolical. A punishment to some a gift, and to many a favor. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. As long as you live, keep learning how to live. The day which we fear as our last is but the birthday of eternity. There is no person so severely punished as those who subject themselves to the whip of their own remorse. People are frugal in guarding their personal property. But as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. You are arranging what is in fortune's control and abandoning what lies in yours. Nothing is burdensome if taken lightly, and nothing need arouse one's irritation so long as one doesn't make it bigger than it is by getting irritated. It is not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much. We are not given a short life, but we make it short. And we are not ill supplied, but wasteful of it. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Have this thought ever present with thee. When thou losest any outward thing, what thou gainest in its stead, and if this be the more precious, say not, I have suffered loss. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power or our will. The anger of an ape, the threat of a flattered, these deserve equal regard. When you want to hear a philosopher, do not say, "You say nothing to me." Only show yourself worthy or fit to hear, and then you will see how you will move the speaker. Friend, bethink you first what it is that you would do, and then what your own nature is able to bear. He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at. Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Hold to your true aspirations, no matter what is going on around you. To you, all you have seems small. To me, all I have seems great. Your desire is insatiable. Mine is satisfied. From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself. Separate yourself from the mob. In every affair, consider what precedes and what follows, and then undertake it. If you seek truth, you will not seek to gain a victory by every possible means. And when you have found truth, you need not fear being defeated. When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. True instruction is this: to learn to wish that each thing should come to pass as it does. Be free from grief, not through insensibility like the irrational animals, nor through want of thought like the foolish, but like a man of virtue, by having reason as the consolation of grief. Decide to be extraordinary and do what you need to do now. I laugh at those who think they can damage me. They do not know who I am. They do not know what I think. They cannot even touch the things which are really mine and with which I live. Suffering arises from trying to control what is uncontrollable, or from neglecting what is within our power. However he may treat me, I must deal rightly by him. This is what lies with me, what none can hinder. No matter what happens, it is within my power to turn it to my advantage. Nothing is in reality either pleasant or unpleasant by nature, but all things become so through habit. The appearance of things to the mind is the standard of every action to man. To accuse others for one's own misfortune is a sign of want of education. To accuse oneself shows that one's education has begun. To accuse neither oneself nor others shows that one's education is complete. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Give me, by all means, the shorter and nobler life, instead of one that is longer but of less account. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Take care not to hurt the ruling faculty of your mind. If you were to guard against this in every action, you should enter upon those actions more safely. Nature hath given men one tongue, but 2 ears, that we may hear from others twice as much as we speak. The essence of philosophy is that a man should so live that his happiness shall depend as little as possible on external things. People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. Everything has 2 handles. The one by which it may be carried, the other by which it cannot. A city is not adorned by external things, but by the virtue of those who dwell in it. If you ever happen to turn your attention to externals for the pleasure of anyone, be assured that you have ruined your scheme of life. He who exercises wisdom exercises the knowledge which is about God. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. If you are in pain, you will find fortitude. If you hear unpleasant language, you will find patience. Disease is an impediment to the body, but not to the will, unless the will itself chooses. Let whatever appears to be the best be to you an inviolable law. Those proficient praise no one, blame no one, and accuse no one. Events happen as they do. People behave as they are. Embrace what you actually get. Never call yourself a philosopher, nor talk a great deal among the unlearned about theorems, but act conformably to them. If you would be a reader, read. If a writer, write. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. When, therefore, anyone provokes you, be assured that it is your own opinion which provokes you. Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will. For states are well governed by the wisdom of men, but not by stone and wood. You are but an appearance, and not absolutely the thing you appear to be. Remember that you ought to behave in life as you would at a banquet. Other people's views and troubles can be contagious. Don't sabotage yourself by unwittingly adopting negative, unproductive attitudes through your associations with others. Some things are in our control, and others not. Fortify yourself with contentment, for this is an impregnable fortress. With every accident, ask yourself what abilities you have for making a proper use of it. Circumstances don't make the man. They only reveal him to himself. It is better to do wrong seldom and to own it and to act right for the most part than seldom to admit that you have done wrong and to do wrong often. Let no man think that he is loved by any who loveth none. Keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern. And be clear that what belongs to others is their business and none of yours. You are a little soul carrying a corpse. Most of what passes for legitimate entertainment is inferior or foolish and only caters to or exploits people's weaknesses. Death is nothing terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. But the terror consists in our notion of death, that it is terrible. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. No man is free who is not master of himself. What is the first business of one who practices philosophy? To get rid of self-conceit. For it is impossible for anyone to begin to learn that which he thinks he already knows. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Since it is reason which shapes and regulates all other things, it ought not itself to be left in disorder. We should not have either a blunt knife or a freedom of speech which is ill managed. Demand not that things happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. You can be invincible if you enter into no contest in which it is not in your power to conquer. Reason is not measured by size or height, but by principle. Who are those people by whom you wish to be admired? Are they not these whom you are in the habit of saying that they are mad? What then? Do you wish to be admired by the mad? But if you chance to be placed in some superior station, will you presently set yourself up for a tyrant? No thing great is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. The origin of sorrow is this: to wish for something that does not come to pass. In a word, neither death, nor exile, nor pain, nor anything of this kind is the real cause of our doing or not doing any action, but our inward opinions and principles. If it is good to use attention tomorrow, how much better is it to do so today? Every art and every faculty contemplates certain things as its principal objects. It is unlikely that the good of a snail should reside in its shell. So is it likely that the good of a man should? Any one thing in the creation is sufficient to demonstrate a providence to an humble and grateful mind. Man, what are you talking about? Me in chains? You may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus himself, can overpower. Freedom is secured not by the fulfilling of men's desires, but by the removal of desire. In theory, there is nothing to hinder our following what we are taught. But in life, there are many things to draw us aside. The poor body must be separated from the spirit either now or later, as it was separated from it before. It is difficulties that show what men are. The philosopher's school, ye men, is a surgery. You ought not to go out of it with pleasure, but with pain, for you are not in sound health when you enter. Practice yourself, for heaven's sake, in little things, and thence proceed to greater. And be silent for the most part, or else make only the most necessary remarks, and express these in few words. It is my business to manage carefully and dexterously whatever happens. God save me from fools with a little philosophy. No one is more difficult to reach. To be getting an education means this: to be learning what is your own and what is not your own. Freedom and slavery. The one is the name of virtue, and the other of vice, and both are acts of the will. No man is able to make progress when he is wavering between opposite things. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. You are not alone. Nay, God is within, and your genius is within. To the rational being, only the irrational is unendurable, but the rational is endurable. Is freedom anything else than the power of living as we choose? For on these matters, we should not trust the multitude who say that none ought to be educated but the free, but rather to philosophers who say that the educated are free. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Seek not the good in external things. Seek it in yourselves. A ship should not ride on a single anchor, nor life on a single hope. It's time to stop being vague. If you wish to be an extraordinary person, if you wish to be wise, then you should explicitly identify the kind of person you aspire to become. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Don't just say you have read books. Show that through them you have learned to think better, to be a more discriminating and reflective person. Books are the training weights of the mind. They are very helpful, but it would be a bad mistake to suppose that one has made progress simply by having internalized their contents. There are some things which men confess with ease and others with difficulty. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Although we can't control which roles are assigned to us, it must be our business to act our given role as best we possibly can and to refrain from complaining about it. Wherever you find yourself and in whatever circumstances, give an impeccable performance. Of pleasures, those which occur most rarely give the most delight. Caretake this moment. Immerse yourself in its particulars. Respond to this person, this challenge, this deed. Quit evasions. Stop giving yourself needless trouble. It is time to really live, to fully inhabit the situation you happen to be in now. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Remember, it is not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation, which is why it is essential that we not respond impulsively to impressions. Take a moment before reacting, and you will find it easier to maintain control. Now is the time to get serious about living your ideals. How long can you afford to put off who you really want to be? Your nobler self cannot wait any longer. Put your principles into practice now. Stop the excuses and the procrastination. This is your life. You aren't a child anymore. The sooner you set yourself to your spiritual program, the happier you will be. The longer you wait, the more you'll be vulnerable to mediocrity and feel filled with shame and regret. Because you know you are capable of better. From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself. Separate yourself from the mob. Decide to be extraordinary and do what you need to do now. Looking outwards has got to be turned into looking into oneself. Discovering yourself provides you with all you are, were meant to be, and all you are living from and for. Somewhere, right at the bottom of one's own being, one generally does know where one should go and what one should do. But there are times when the clown we call I behaves in such a distracting fashion that the inner voice cannot make its presence felt. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In each of us, there is another whom we do not know. The urge to become what one is invincibly strong. And you can always count on it. But that does not mean that things will necessarily turn out positively. If you are not interested in your own fate, the unconscious is. As any change must begin somewhere, it is the single individual who will experience it and carry it through. The change must indeed begin with an individual. It might be any one of us. Nobody can afford to look around and to wait for somebody else to do what he is loath to do himself. Man is not a machine that can be remodeled for quite other purposes as occasion demands, in the hope that it will go on functioning as regularly as before, but in a quite different way. He carries his whole history with him. In his very structure is written the history of mankind. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. Follow that will and that way which experience confirms to be your own. The rational attitude which permits us to declare objective values as valid at all is not the work of the individual subject, but the product of human history. To find out what is truly individual in ourselves, profound reflection is needed. And suddenly, we realize how uncommonly difficult the discovery of individuality is. The highest, most decisive experience is to be alone with one's own self. You must be alone to find out what supports you. When you find that you cannot support yourself, only this experience can give you an indestructible foundation. The decisive question for man is he related to something infinite or not? That is the telling question of his life. Only if we know that the thing which truly matters is the infinite can we avoid fixing our interests upon futilities and upon all kinds of goals which are not of real importance. Thus we demand that the world grant us recognition for qualities which we regard as personal possessions, our talent or our beauty. The more a man lays stress on false possessions and the less sensitivity he has for what is essential, the less satisfying is his life. He feels limited because he has limited aims, and the result is envy and jealousy. If we understand and feel that here in this life, we already have a link with the infinite, desires and attitudes change. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. I don't aspire to be a good man. I aspire to be a whole man. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego. The second half is going inward and letting go of it. Thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take this step with the false presupposition that our truths and our ideals will serve us as hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true at evening will have become a lie. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. It is often tragic to see how blatantly a man bungles his own life and the lives of others, yet remains totally incapable of seeing how much the whole tragedy originates in himself, and how he continually feeds it and keeps it going. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. I shall not commit the fashionable stupidity of regarding everything I cannot explain as a fraud. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. We apprehend it just as much by feeling. Therefore, the judgment of the intellect is, at best, only the half of truth, and must, if it be honest, also come to an understanding of its inadequacy. I regret many follies which sprang from my obstinacy, but without that trait, I would not have reached my goal. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. That which compels us to create a substitute for ourselves is not the external lack of objects, but our incapacity to lovingly include a thing outside of ourselves. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also, if I am to be whole. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. What you resist persists. Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life. Find out what a person fears most, and that is where he will develop next. What if I should discover that the poorest of the beggars and the most impudent of offenders are all within me, and that I stand in need of the alms of my own kindness, that I, myself, am the enemy who must be loved? What then? How important it is to affirm one's own destiny. In this way, we forge an ego that does not break down when incomprehensible things happen. An ego that endures the truth, and that is capable of coping with the world and with fate. Then, to experience defeat is also to experience victory. Nothing is disturbed, neither inwardly nor outwardly, for one's own continuity has withstood the current of life and of time. The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Be silent and listen. Have you recognized your madness, and do you admit it? Have you noticed that all your foundations are completely mired in madness? Do you not want to recognize your madness and welcome it in a friendly manner? You wanted to accept everything, so accept madness too. Let the light of your madness shine, and it will suddenly dawn on you. Madness is not to be despised and not to be feared, but instead you should give it life. If you want to find paths, you should also not spurn madness, since it makes up such a great part of your nature. Be glad that you can recognize it, for you will thus avoid becoming its victim. Madness is a special form of the spirit and clings to all teachings and philosophies, but even more to daily life. Since life itself is full of craziness and at bottom utterly illogical, man strives toward reason only so that he can make rules for himself. Life itself has no rules. That is its mystery and its unknown law. What you call knowledge is an attempt to impose something comprehensible on life. It is a most painful procedure to tear off those veils. But each step forward in psychological development means just that, the tearing off of a new veil. We are like onions with many skins, and we have to peel ourselves again and again in order to get at the real core. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. There are as many nights as days, and the one is just as long as the other in the year's course. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. Nobody, as long as he moves among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. Nobody can fall so low unless he has a great depth. If such a thing can happen to a man, it challenges his best and highest on the other side. That is to say, this depth corresponds to a potential height, and the blackest darkness to a hidden light. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. To ask the right question is already half the solution of a problem. The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. It is just these intense conflicts and their conflagration which are needed to produce valuable and lasting results. Mistakes are, After all, the foundations of truth. And if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge if he knows what it is not. Out of evil, much good has come to me. By keeping quiet, repressing nothing, remaining attentive, and by accepting reality, taking things as they are and not as I wanted them to be. By doing all this, unusual knowledge has come to me, and unusual powers as well, such as I could never have imagined before. A human being would certainly not grow to be 70 or 80 years old if this longevity had no meaning for the species. The afternoon of human life must also have a significance of its own and cannot be merely a pitiful appendage to life's morning. Faith, hope, love, and insight are the highest achievements of human effort. They are found given by experience. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. I have frequently seen people become neurotic when they content themselves with inadequate or wrong answers to the questions of life. They seek position, marriage, reputation, outward success of money, and remain unhappy and neurotic even when they have attained what they were seeking. Such people are usually confined within too narrow a spiritual horizon. Their life has not sufficient content, sufficient meaning. If they are enabled to develop into more spacious personalities, the neurosis generally disappears. Nobody can achieve happiness through preconceived ideas. One should rather call it a gift of the gods. It comes and goes. And what has made you happy once does not necessarily do so at another time. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. We no longer live on what we have, but on promises, no longer in the present day, but in the darkness of the future, which we expect will, at last, bring the proper sunrise. We refuse to recognize that everything better is purchased at the price of something worse. That, for example, the hope of greater freedom is canceled out by increased enslavement to the state. Not to speak of the terrible perils to which the most brilliant discoveries of science expose us. The less we understand of what our forebears sought, the less we understand ourselves. And thus we help with all our might to rob the individual of his roots and his guiding instincts, so that he becomes a particle in the mass, ruled only by what Nietzsche called the spirit of gravity.